Okay. What's up, guys? It's David with Trade School Consulting. Today we are going to have a conversation with Caleb Roth. He is coming to us with a lot of knowledge from the stain and seal experts, their university, and some of the things that they teach. And so we got Caleb here today. He's going to talk a little bit about some of the things that they do and some of the things that you can do as far as staining and sealing. Caleb, you want to go through and kind of introduce yourself, tell the guys a little bit about yourself?
Well, hello, good evening, everyone. It's kind of strange. I can't see anybody, so I'll try to get used to that. But I guess how many listeners we got tonight?
So it looks like right now we have about 30 that's tuning in. So
you got good deal.
Build up as you guys you kind of go over some of the experience that you have with staining and sealing.
Yep. Well, cool. Well, glad you guys could make it. My name's Caleb Roth. I own a little company called Stain and Seal Experts, and I'm a stain contractor. Swapped over to a stain manufacturer a couple years back, and we still run those parallel businesses, and here we are, you know. So it's been a long, fun ride, and I'm planning on doing many more years. But somewhere along the way, I started calling people who had more experience than me in the industry, and I started interviewing them on the phone, asking questions, asking what not to do and what to do. And a long story short, it kind of turned into a radio show. Of course, we've been so busy, we've not been on the ball like we should lately, but we started this program called the Stain and Seal Experts Podcast. And one thing led to another, and now we've got a Facebook group where we do a lot of free training. We do free events where we teach guys how to stain and seal, do wood restoration, and we do it all for free. So that's what we do. We make stains, we put them on, and we teach other guys how to use them.
Awesome.
Makes sense?
So, it does. It's pretty straightforward. So I guess let's start off with the basics. Why does anybody want to stain or seal anything to begin with?
Well, to preserve, to protect, to restore, you know, that's kind of one of our taglines for our company. You know, obviously most people want to do it because it makes things look good, right? You know, you wash your car because it makes it look good, not really because it's going to make it last. But obviously with outdoor products or wood outdoor products, they're immediately, as soon as the sun hits them, they're going to start deteriorating. So we've got to do something to protect that and to stop that deterioration and to preserve the wood, obviously, so it will last. And so, that's the reason why. But most people, and when you're out selling, it's generally most consumers are more interested in just, keeping their investment looking good and lasting, as long as they can. Okay. So that's it. So, most people already know why. Why do you stain and seal? Preserve, protect, restore, whatever. That's the idea of it.
Okay. So how does this service really pair with the pressure washing business, and how can someone like me that's a business owner operator use this to help grow my revenue?
Well, it's pretty simple. It pairs. The reason it pairs so well with power washing is because there will be rainy days, right? So you look over my shoulder, it's raining here now, and there's going to be wet days, and whether you're using oil-based or water-based stains, it still can get too wet to stain, too windy to stain. So we started bringing power washing on several years ago for that reason. I had employees when I went from owner operator to having payroll. I had to find a way to keep my guys on the clock. And the way I could do that was by adding on power washing. And I see, one of our biggest customers now as a manufacturer is power washers who are doing the opposite. They're bringing on stain and seal as a sideline to their main business.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess for me particularly, we already offer staining and sealing for decks and fences. And it was something for me that in my personal experience, it helped us gain pressure washing jobs as well for a pressure washing business. There's a lot of people that want that service to be all in one. They want the same person that's going to
Sure.
be doing the pressure washing, cleaning the wood to also be staining and sealing. So that's kind of how we got into it. Was we got tired of losing jobs for no particular reason other than we're just not offering this. Now I started out with like a roller and a brush, so it was completely different, but we eventually moved up to spraying, and it's a very profitable service for us as well. So yeah, I totally agree. I think it's something that's easily pairable with pressure washing, and not only will it give you some more business in the aspect of just having that revenue for staining, but also for gaining pressure washing business. So,
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Since we've got a while here tonight, I'll touch on that a little more. What you just spoke of, when you walk into their backyard, and if you can handle cleaning the roof, cleaning the house, doing the gutters, doing the driveway, seal the driveway, stain the fence, stain the deck, restore all the wood, do the play set. Especially if you're an owner operator, it really opens you up to you can take a very simple job and turn it into a pretty good revenue stream, and you can turn that into maintenance programs. And I'm sure you already do that. But so yeah, it's definitely good to add multiple revenue streams to your business. We do that to a degree, but also we're pretty busy, so we try to focus on certain things. But if we get a particularly wet year like we have right now, we've got several house washes to do, but that's not our main deal, but we'll bring it on. And as the future rolls on, I plan on doing the maintenance plan and trying to do, pick up on that extra revenue, because when we call our clients back 2 years, 3 years down the road, their driveway is going to be dirty. Their house is going to be dirty. So, when we go back to touch up those fences, it's a great idea to add that extra revenue on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you go to our website or look at any of our videos on YouTube, we talk a lot about residential memberships and how important that is for revenue growth and scaling properly. Cash flow projections. I mean, anytime you can set someone up on a recurring revenue stream, it's much easier for you as a business owner. So,
sure.
So I touched on a little bit. I started out with rollers and paintbrushes, and then we eventually upgraded to sprayers. What kind of equipment do you recommend people have? And is there a particular place that you would recommend going if they're looking for specific equipment for staining?
Well, man, this is where most guys nerd out and they get really caught up here. And I did that when I first started. But looking back, you don't have to do that. Just like you can start with a paintbrush. I've interviewed tons and tons of guys from all over the country that do staining, and some of them start out with $50,000 setups, and some of them start out with what they call a bug sprayer. And so, a pump up garden sprayer is what I would call that. So it really doesn't matter. I think the most important thing is not the equipment, it's the sales. You need to get the sales coming in the door, and you'll find a way to get the job done. I sold my first power wash job, a big house wash, a couple of years ago. And I said, well, if I get that job, I'll go buy a power washer. And that's what we did. So, you can start with a paintbrush. You can start subcontracting. That's an option. I've got a lot of guys in our group that love to sub for people. So you can always subcontract. You can hire someone who's already maybe an owner operator and bring them under and let them set up a crew for you. And usually they'll have equipment or can point you in the right direction. But a good all around way to start is going to be an airless sprayer. They'll run all kinds of products, water-based, oil-based. They run high pressure. So they can push things through. You're not going to worry about clogs and things like that, like you do with some of the low pressure systems. You got an assortment of tips. You can get tiny tips. You can get, flood coat tips. So it's real versatile. And that's what I recommend you get started with, just because if you get a piece of specialty equipment that will only run one product or one thing through it, you've got a specialty piece of equipment, so it's going to limit you. That makes sense.
Yeah. We started out with rollers and stuff like that. And I think even now, the sprayers that we use are from Home Depot. I don't know, if someone's asked me about pressure washing, I'm like, Home Depot's not really where you need to be at.
Yeah.
But a Graco X19 seems to do pretty well for what we do.
Yeah. If you're in the market or the price range of a Graco X19, Pro X19, they're great pumps. We've run them for a long time. For the same price, you can go to Sherwin-Williams and get the 390 or the 395. It's a commercial machine, so it's going to have an extra filter. It's going to have a 3-year warranty. It's going to be fully rebuildable. So that's a good entry-level commercial machine for most guys, and I recommend it. I like, a lot of guys like the tall boys with the wheels, but I like the one with the carry handle. It takes up less space. Won't fall over.
For the people taking notes at home, what was that again?
Graco 395, 390, either one. There's so many out there. If you're a Titan guy, you can buy Titans, you can buy Gracos. Some guys are Dallas, Texas, all the stainers down there buy a $200 Harbor Freight sprayer and they throw it away every year and buy a new one. So it really, use what you got. If you got an airless in the closet, pull it out, put it to work.
So you're really driving home the point, like the tools themselves, it doesn't seem like it's as important. Not that they're not important, but as important as the sales aspect of this.
Well, let me give you an analogy. If you decided, if I was a stain contractor and let's say I was an owner operator and I was, I don't know, doing $100,000 in business a year. And I called you up and I said, I want to start a power washing business. Would you recommend I go buy a $50,000 truck that's already loaded out with a flatbed rig, maybe $100,000 rig? Would you recommend that?
No, not at all.
No, not until you have the clientele. When you're running 5 or 6 jobs a day on each truck, that's when you got to go get the big stuff. But until you get there, we can talk about equipment all day, but I just really don't want to recommend guys to jump in head first on the equipment end. I'd say you jump in head first on the sales and marketing end, and you can get the equipment. You can beg, borrow, or steal that, or even rent it. A lot of guys buy these wood defender trailers, and I've got 2 of them. They're about 18 or 20 grand to buy one. I bought mine used. Brand new trailers, you buy them used, and we've moved away from that method just because employees, they don't clean things as good maybe as owner operators do. So we like the airless because they're just a little more reliable for us in our system. But what the point I'm trying to make is a lot of guys buy expensive equipment and it sits, doesn't get ran. And you probably see that in your industry as well. So I would recommend sales, marketing. If you got 10 grand to spend, put most of it into marketing and sales. Get yourself looking professional and sharp, and the work will come.
So with that being said, so for like in my limited staining and experience, we target people's decks and fences, and just literally residential homeowners. What's some other areas that you can have as far as what you're looking at when you're looking at a customer base for staining and sealing?
You mean what type of projects are available out there?
Correct.
Oh, anything exterior wood, you can do. Some guys are really good at front doors. We don't touch those, but some guys do very well at those. You got patios. Texas has a lot of patio covers, pergolas. That's a covering over your back porch, an outdoor living space. For us here in Tennessee, it's fences and decks. I really particularly like the 2, 3, 4 mile farm fence jobs. So 3 or 4 plank, like you see around horse farms. We love those. We can do them so fast, and so they're profitable for us. So every market's going to be a little different. If you're in the South, you're probably going to see privacy fences, treated pine. If you're out Midwest, you're going to see cedar. It just really depends on your market. And so if you got somebody here listening tonight that's interested in a market, call me, text me, Facebook me, and you tell me where you are, and I could probably have a pretty good idea of what the big main things are. If you're in the Northeast, maybe cedar shake roofs. If you're already washing those, you can stain them. There's good business there too. So just depends where you are, doesn't it?
Just from your previous experiences, you've been successful in this area. Where when you were starting out, where do you put in place the whole, let's focus on the sales and put our money towards that, and put limited resources towards equipment. What marketing avenues did you try to explore when you were starting out that allowed you to
Well, I don't want to say my claim to fame, but somebody's messaging me, sorry. My claim to fame, or kind of in this business, was basically because I didn't have any money. I was a fence contractor. I grew up in a family fence business, and I think I made maybe 28 grand a year. Had a family house, paid, I didn't have a paid for house, but I had a house, a mortgage. Life was good, made a little bit of money. I didn't know that I wasn't, that I was starving. Life was good, simpler. That was 3 kids ago. I've got 3 more now, 4. But anyways, so I started staining, and I started it as a sideline, and it was good because the money was all mine, right? I was an owner operator. I didn't have overhead. And so looking back, my view has changed over the years because now I have overhead, and it's growing and growing. And now we're at the point where we do things to trim and budget and try to get that overhead, at a really good manageable level so that we remain very profitable. But starting out, I did Facebook Live videos. And even before Facebook Live, I did, I would just record a video, put it on Facebook, and I would say, hey, I'm at this fence. We're about to stain it. Here it is. In 20 minutes, I'll come back and show you some more. And that's what I would do. And then now I'm done. I'm covered in stain. I'm going, hey guys, Caleb with Central Tennessee Fence Stain. That was my company name back in the day. Here we are. It just anything I could do, I would market with. I would do, again, like I said, Facebook Live videos. Later on, I started doing the advertisements, the Facebook ads and things and AdWords. But really, I feel like a good website presence is good. And that's what you got to have in today's world. A lot of people can do business by word of mouth. And, I know a lot of successful guys who do 100% word of mouth. But for me, I felt that it was important to build up a brand and get a website in place, get my trucks wrapped, things like that, stuff a lot of you guys are already doing.
So there's a little bit of debate for the guys that are watching here that have that aren't just an owner operator system where they may have just one or two techs. For the guys that are at that 5 or 6 point and trying to determine whether life was just easier going back down to 2. In your experience, like how do you like that? What's your thoughts on being the owner operator versus the guy that's scaling?
Well, it depends. I see owner operators that go fishing 3 days a week, and I think that must be awful nice. There's a point as an owner operator where you'll build it up to a certain point where you make a lot of money. And then there's a point where you bring on help and your profits, what you bring home goes down. But there is a place where you can grow to where the profits come back. And I think it's maybe that 300,000 to 250 to 350 range where guys, if you have employees, things can be tight right in there in that revenue area. But what makes that tight, I think, when I was at that point was maybe I didn't have my numbers down like I should. And I think if you've got your numbers right, if you know your numbers, if you're getting at least a 50% profit margin, then no matter where you are in that curve, you should be fine. It should take out that room for error, that room for less profitability. So if I could start over in business, that's the number one thing I would keep a check on is sales, marketing, and profitability, and counting everything that went in and out of the business. Give every cent a name. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I tell people, especially people that we talk with or consult with, when they ask about, some of the benefits or how we're able to scale the way we do, a lot of it has to do with just tracking data. We spend an enormous amount of time and resources on tracking data and making sure that whether I want to pull every house that was valued over $1 million this year that we watched, or if I want to pull it from a certain marketing avenue that we've been exploring to see what the return on that is, or like what you're saying, just constantly seeing where your profit levels are. And so a bookkeeper, for those that are watching that don't have one, you can get a pretty simple P&L statement once a month for $60 to $100 a month. And it'll be some of the best money that you've ever spent as a business owner, because it gives you a really good, it's really easy to trick yourself sometimes as a business owner. You see all this cash flow and you see all this activity that's happening and you feel slammed every day sometimes. And then at the end of the month, you look back, and if you have a true P&L statement, it gives you a better vision of, are we really operating to be operating, or are we operating for profit? So yeah,
I think you should have a P&L on every job.
Yeah, no. Let's see here. So sorry, trying to keep up with this as well. Understanding that. So the next question was really about pricing and trying to, I guess, understand that. So can you talk a little bit about pricing? And I know that question is really vague, but just a price range in general, or you're talking about profit margins. What would be your general profit margin when you're looking at paints and stuff? And I know that varies a little bit, but generally speaking,
with paints, you said. Well, we don't do much. We don't do much painting. We'll paint farm fence sometimes, the black horse fence, but typically we do oil-based penetrating stain. We manufacture it, so that's what we use. Everything we make, we use. Profitability in any service industry, I mean, you need to be around 50% or better. And you need to give incentives to your salespeople to get over 50%, 60%, 70%, as much as you can get. I don't know how the numbers are in power washing on average, but in staining, that's where it needs to be. So we're going to run a minimum of 50%. We don't always hit that mark. Sometimes something happens, but usually it's over 50. And sometimes, like on deck staining, particularly where we are, is a better margin. You might get a ridiculous amount of margin. one bucket, it's not uncommon to do it's not uncommon to do a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 project that uses one bucket of stain. The rest is labor, and there's not that. Labor is probably our most expensive thing, but it's not. It doesn't outweigh the profits. That's for sure. If you get those bigger projects.
Yeah, I've noticed something, or at least with my staining, and again, I have a very limited experience in this, but in the staining that we do offer, it seems that most of our time and labor goes into even more so the prep work than the actual staining itself in a lot of cases for me. Now, again, I could be maybe over prepping stuff because
it's probably your products. You're probably using water based where you got to mask everything. It makes it tough. But we do the penetrating oil base. We can wet the side of a house down, spray the fence, rinse the house off, and we're out of there. So that's what makes the penetrating stains a little easier to work with. We spray right over the gate hardware and we wipe it off with a rag when we're finished. So if you get the right product in your hand, just like with chemicals on roof washing or whatever, it makes a difference. So I think that would help your profitability and time on the job site would be to look at a penetrating oil base if it ever dries up. It's pretty wet out there, right?
You guys make this yourself?
We manufacture it here in Middle Tennessee. Yep.
Okay. And what's if someone wanted to, like, I'm going to get off and then probably go immediately and look at the website. Where's the website that we could go to if we wanted to look at that?
Well, we've got two websites and they both link together, but you can go to stainandsealexperts.com, and that's just stainandsealexperts.com. If you want to go straight to our store, because our main website is good for contractors and homeowners who are seeking our services. If you want to go straight to our store, we've got a distribution company, and all of our stains, all of our wood cleaners, all of those things, degreasers are on there as well. And that's restorativewoodproducts.com. But you can go to the main site, click on store. Either way, you'll get there.
Okay.
But that's the thing, it's just like I see all these F9. I don't know what any of these chemicals are for the power wash world, but I see them and guys use them and they know how to use them and they make money with them. So that's the thing. If you learn your systems and your chemicals and things like that, your stains, how they're going to react on certain woods, it's not, a lot of guys get nerded out on it, and a lot of guys spend way too much time trying to identify every species of wood. I don't really think that's important. I think it's just important to learn your stains, your wood cleaners, and how they're going to work, and go to town with them. If you understand the basics, that's really what you need, is the basics.
Okay. For somebody that's just now getting into this, what are the busy seasons for this?
Well, a couple of years ago, we might take 2 weeks off every year, and I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. So pretty hot in the summer, and it was dry in the winter. The last 2 years, it's been raining from November to today's March 18th. It's still raining. So it just depends. There's some guys there's always somebody staining, it seems like. So, and that's another thing with the oil-based stains. If it's 20 degrees outside, it really doesn't matter. We've stained decks, I think 25 degrees, and stained decks without any issues. So again, right products will extend your season, and those water-based products you're using now will also extend your season. If you have a little bit of a moisture issue, the water-based sometimes is a way to keep your guys working.
Is you had mentioned it's never too cold. Is there a temperature at which it's too hot? Like when we get in the middle of July?
Not with the stains that we make. There's no sunlight restrictions. There's no temperature. We just want to keep that moisture content of the wood at the right place. If it's dry, we'll rock and roll. We stain fences and it'll rain while we're loading the truck up, and it's not an issue. Decks are a little different. You kind of want a little cure time on a deck because it's flat and water can't run off. But that's it. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward.
This is exciting. I just learned something. Like, I'm definitely going to go check this out, just because you're absolutely right. That's what's slowing us down, is that we're having to tape on a deck that connects to the back of a house that goes up one floor or something like that. We're having to tape below and above the deck. It's like we're taping off half the back of the house before we even can start spraying. So
yeah, well, that's common with decks, but where you really save your time is on fences.
Yeah.
We mask for decks as well if we're spraying them. If I'm spraying, we're going to mask for the deck. A lot of times it's faster, or almost as fast, to just do them by hand, especially if you got 2 or 3 guys out there. So don't, obviously water based, you really want to sling it on there, but oil, you can get out there by hand pretty easily. But fences, if you're masking the whole side of a house for while you're doing fences, if you've got the right stuff, you know, a good degreaser, you got soap and water, basic things like that, you can move on pretty quick without having to do a lot of masking.
Awesome.
We have a question.
All right. So for you guys that have ever used trade school consultings for their services, like our websites or door hanger designs or anything like that, Aaron's probably worked with you hand in hand. Aaron's been kind of handling you guys' comments. We got a question that Aaron wants to see if we can't get an answer for.
Yeah, this is Tim Cox. And he says, what about 100 degrees with 90% humidity like we see in Georgia summer?
Yeah, so that's kind of why I was asking, but you're telling me it's just based on the type of material that we're using.
Well, Tim Cox, he buys stain from us. So he's asking me about our stain and moisture in Georgia, particularly South Georgia. They have this heavy dew that doesn't go away till 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And I think he's a little more North Georgia. So he's dealing with that 100% humidity. We've got it here too in Nashville. And the main thing we're looking for is about 13% moisture or less. And you can get a moisture meter in Home Depot for $25. But you just check the moisture. If the moisture's good, you're all right. I have not seen any issues with 100% humidity or 90% humidity. That may change. That may be different in your location, but check the fence or the deck with the moisture meter and you should be good. If it's in the shade and it's a little wet in the morning, let the sun hit it. Spray the side that's got the sun on it first and work your way around.
So a related question, when washing and sealing a fence, how long do you wait after washing before you seal?
With a penetrating oil-based stain, the moisture content is key. 13% or less is what we're looking for. If you're doing water-based products, you know, some people sell water-based products that say you can wash it and then go after lunch and stain it. But there's a certain point where, you know, the wood, you know, 30% moisture content is sort of, the wood is sort of full. So you're not going to get that full penetration. So if you're doing water-based, you still really want to get that moisture content, lower ideal. So I err on the side of caution. Now we have sprayed some things that were pretty wet before. You know, we're a manufacturer, so we got to test everything, and some things work better than others. And we have found that you really want that moisture to give your customer the best value. You got to get that moisture content down around 13%. Now down in Georgia, my good friend Jamie Hodge, he's spraying anything 15% or less just because it doesn't get any drier. And that's not an issue. That's not a problem. But it just depends on your market and where you are. If you're up north and it's, you know, you're probably going to see 10% moisture every day. If you're down in South Georgia or South Florida, it's just not going to get there. So you want it as dry as you can get it and then go for it. And if you're spraying something that's too wet, don't spray anything that's too wet that you're not prepared to go back and do some warranty work on, because, you know, if the wood's way too wet, you're going to have issues.
Yeah, so essentially, as I understand it, the wood is it's a saturation issue, right? So if you had a paper napkin and you wiped it across the counter to clean up a spill, it's much more effective than it is if you dump it in a glass of water before you try to do that. It's the same with wood. So even in like in Georgia, when we stain like 15, I will stain something at 14%. 15, 16%. It depends. We'll try to give it another day if we have that in our schedule. But like you were saying, even something at like 20 or 30%, no matter where you're located, that's just not going to be a good experience for the client. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we did different with our stains is the stains we used before were oil-based too, but they had just this god-awful smell. And we would go home, we'd smell like a paint factory. And as I was interviewing all these guys for our radio show and even behind the scenes, people we didn't record, just phone conversations like we're having now, there's some common themes: diminished lung capacity, cancers of the pancreas, of the brain, of the kidneys. Just a lot of really weird things were happening to a lot of guys that are spraying fences and painting cars, doing anything with high solvent products like paints and oil-based stains. And I kind of thought, let's make a stain without solvent in it. And at the time, I mean, I'm not a chemist, I'm a contractor. So we got a team of chemists together and they said, well, it can't be done. And I said, well, do it anyways. And they said, holy crap, we can do it. And we figured a way out. So our stains, a lot of people see our label that says low VOC. What that means is we don't add solvents. We don't add paint thinner or mineral spirits into our stain to thin it down. And so our stain is going to be a little thicker. It's going to fall to the ground a little faster, but it's going to spend more time on the fence. So if you spray the fence and it hits, it's going to spend more time slowly coming down the fence and has more time to penetrate. And so if you've got wood that's a little bit more wet, it's going to spend more time on the fence. Whereas if your stain has all that solvent in it and it's really thin, it's going to evaporate just like that. And it doesn't have time to soak into the wood. So it winds up just sitting on the surface. So aside from the added benefit of it doesn't stink, it's easier to clean up, we don't have all the solvents, it's also going to be something that gives you a little more leniency on the moisture content. Now, we still recommend 13% or less, but obviously if you're down in Georgia, it's 15% on a fence, go for it. I mean, we're not, you do what you got to do.
Awesome. Yeah. So that was all the questions for that.
I know, Tim, you got another question? Anybody else listening? I don't know if Stephen Estep's on here. I can't see everybody. I can't see who's listening tonight. So it'd be great if I could see everyone.
So
I guess I could get on my phone and look at it like that. How about that?
About the same.
So this is an invite only deal, isn't it?
No.
Yep. Is it not? Is it on your, is it live on your page?
You can click on it and view it.
Let's do that. There I am. Got 27 people on here. Good deal. Steven's on here. I can see questions now.
So this is an invite only deal, isn't it?
Let's mute that. Yeah, I'd love to get a little more interaction and get some more questions.
Click on it and view it.
There we go. All right. Man, how's the market in the southeast area of North Carolina? Southeast. I am from middle part of North Carolina or western North Carolina. And from what I have seen, North Carolina is doing great. It's a good market. It's a treated pine market, and it works. A lot of guys are making money down there. I think it's a market that is not fully developed yet. So if you're just now getting into it, I think it's a good place to go. Anywhere in the southeast really is pretty wide open. The Texas and Oklahoma and Omaha, Nebraska markets they've really built those up and they're competitive, but most other markets are not. Nashville, we're seeing a little more competition here, but that's because we're here and we're building this market. So, but it's not necessarily bad, You want to know. Oh, good questions here. All right. So Chris Kunz here, best way to clean wood fence deck or products. We make our own products. They're common products that are available in the marketplace. Obviously you guys are power washing guys. So bleach is going to be your go-to for everything. Bleach is not always the best thing for fences and decks, just simply because we're bleaching things and there's better and easier things, especially when we get into the wood restoration world, trying to make it look brand new. Sodium metasilicate is our go-to. We call it wood cleaner. It's our go-to for decks. It's fantastic. David Berry, Pine State Power Washing, posts a lot of pictures using that product. Kills organic growth. It does a really good job. So you can buy that at most chemical places, or you can get it from our store. Sodium hydroxide based strippers are really good for oil-based and water-based strippers. If you've got a really heavy water-based coating, you're going to have to add in a booster, butyl booster. We sell one of those. What's his name up at Southside Chemical sells one. Russ Johnson, the man. He will get it to you the same day. What else? What's the minimum size pressure washer? Start with 4 gallons. 4 gallons a minute's fine. I bought a pressure washer at 4 gallons a minute, and then I got home and pulled their sticker off, and it said 3.5 gallons a minute, 3,500 psi. It works fine. We still run the thing, so I don't think it matters. We use mostly soft wash tips for everything. We're rinsing, even like we'll remove all the dead cell wood, all that fuzz you see. If we're doing a restoration, we'll remove that from the wood, and that's what if you bleach wood, it just looks white and kind of dull. But if you strip it, remove the dead cell wood, that's where it looks new again. And then you got to brighten it. But that wood cleaner that I was telling you about is what it makes that removal of that dead cell wood easier when it's to the point where it needs to be removed. When it's not to the point where it needs to be removed, it does a great job at killing organic growth, lifting stains. It's got a really good lifting ability, and that's our go-to again, like I said. So let's see who else. Southeast North Carolina, we already talked about that.
Can you
David
repeat
Murphy.
that chemical you just said? Someone's asking for the name.
You can go to restorativewoodproducts.com. It's in the wood restoration section, and you can read all about it. It's called Wood Cleaner. We keep our stuff because we're contractors, and we keep it simple. So we have wood cleaner, wood brightener, wood stripper. We've got an eco cleaner, which is sodium percarbonate. You guys are probably real familiar with that. But the one wood cleaner is based on sodium metasilicate, which is just an oxidizing chemical. Let's see, it doesn't need heat or anything like that. You can do it with cold water. Frank
So
Mullen.
you just answered some of the questions that were in here. Some people asked about sodium percarbonate, and then someone else is asking, what's the best way to store some of those chemicals if you're buying in a bulk 55-pound bags?
Well, if you buy it in a bag, it's a powder, and a bag is obviously it's porous, and it's going to let moisture in. That powder is going to want to suck moisture into it, and so you may find that when you open that bag next month, next year, that it has clumps in it. So the best thing you can do is get it out of that bag, get it in 5-gallon buckets with lids, seal it up, things like that. Or we sell it in a bucket, a resealable bucket. So that's a good choice. Get it in something dry, keep some moisture out. So now Jordan Caldwell is asking, how about sodium percarbonate? What's the difference? Sodium percarbonate is great for what for what it's designed for, but it's not very powerful. Probably most of you guys know that. It's a gentle cleaner. It's a gentle cleaner. It does give more of a white bleached look. A lot of people call it oxygen bleach. It does more of a bleached look when you use it, even after you brighten, where the sodium metasilicate, you can mix it very, very gentle where it's not very harsh, but you can bump it up a little bit and almost turn it into a real light stripper. But the thing about that product is it doesn't make the wood look white. It doesn't give it that white look. It gives it a very, very natural look, which I like. When you bleach stuff, it just doesn't look as good. So let's see. Isn't metasilicate the same as hydroxide? No, they're different. And I'm not a chemical engineer or anything, so I don't know the difference. But sodium hydroxide is very caustic. It's tough. It's bad news. It's tough stuff. Our stripper has sodium metasilicate and sodium hydroxide in it. What did you call that? What about stripping water? Thompson's water sealer. I don't do a lot of strips. We just don't. Some guys do. But stripping Thompson's water sealer, there's so many Thompson's products that it's hard to say. I can't keep up with all of them, but I know the old school Thompson's was like it was like mineral spirits and paraffin oil. That stuff there goes away on its own pretty quick. If you're talking about the new stuff, some of these new coatings, it would just depend if it was water or oil. If it's an oil-based product, generally a sodium hydroxide stripper will work. If it's oil like a Bear or Olympic, you got to add that butyl to it, which is just basically it's a solvent that will help to create solvency in that water-based coating that's on the surface. Just makes it easier to bring it up. Renew All from Russ. I think Renew All I'm not sure what that product is, but anything Russ has got is good. General idea. Oh, a price per square foot. Man, it is different everywhere. And I guess we have these trade antitrust laws or whatever about talking about money too much. But like I said, 50% profit margin is where you need to be. So sit down, figure up your numbers. If you're buying stain from us, your 6-foot privacy fence, you're looking $2.50 a foot material cost. Most subs, if you're subcontracting and you're sending them lots of work, probably 50 cents a foot, they're going to stain it for if you're sending them 4 or 5 jobs a day. And some subs are going to cost you more than that. It just depends on the market and labor. If you're paying guys by the hour, just figure your man hours on it, figure your total cost and add your margin into it. And just make sure your margin will cover your overhead. And so many guys forget overhead. They said, I kept $400 on that job, and they didn't count overhead. We brush instead. Yeah, I agree. Tim Cox says double your cost. That gets you right there in that 50% margin range. We brush. Decks look best brushed. A lot of guys spray them, but they look best brushed. just my opinion, but I think a lot of people share that opinion. You type your
What is,
website.
can you talk a little bit about the technique of back rolling or brushing after the fact of you sprayed? Like, is that what he means when he says he brushes every deck? I can't imagine he means he's actually brushing every deck.
If you get 3 painters on a deck, they'll brush that deck so fast it'll make your head spin.
Really?
They really will. It's just like the guy who's trying to pressure wash his house with his Home Depot machine, and then you come in with your truck and you just knock it out in 15 minutes. It's just having the right products and the right experience. Brushing, you know, a lot of people, they used to say you had to work the stain in, and I don't know if that's the case or not, because our stains will penetrate. They'll go all the way through to the other side of a board when you put them in on wood. But there's definitely something about really just smoothing the thing out on those smooth boards, and back brushing just really makes a deck look nice. If you're doing the smooth stuff, if you're doing horizontal fences, you gotta sometimes, you know, go through and knock down some runs, just because a horizontal board, the stain will sit on top of that rail, and you spray the whole fence like a privacy fence, but the rails are horizontal, and you'll come back the next day and some of that stain will have ran down, and you'll just see some unsightly marks. If you get a fence like that and you want to stain it, it's pretty easy to get like a horsehair brush, a shop broom, maybe a 2-foot broom, take the handle off of it, and you can hold it in your hand just like this stick here, and you can just hit a panel in about 10 seconds. So you can go back and back brush a fence super fast. And our Facebook group, Staining University, is a lot like your trade school group here. Just Google search or Facebook search Staining University, and there's almost 1,000 guys in there staying every day. And those guys are, any question you got, they can answer it better than I can. I'm going through these questions here.
Okay, so I'll read one to you real quick. So there's a couple
All
people asking about if you ever do corporate work, or if you commercial work, sorry, or if you primarily do residential, and if you do commercial, how you sort of go about landing those jobs or getting in contact with the decision maker.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I do if I'm trying to get in touch with any decision maker is I call them until I get in touch with them. Plain and simple. You just have to be relentless, and that comes back to sales. But yeah, we do. I would say probably 90% of our jobs is residential work, but a much larger percentage of our revenue comes from commercial type jobs. And over the years, as you build a brand, they come to me, they come to us, they come to our brand. And obviously networking, you know, when people know you, they'll do business with you. So in Nashville, we stay in kind of a very specific area for residential projects, but for commercial stuff, we might go to Ohio, we might go to Virginia, Texas, Alabama, Kentucky. It doesn't matter. We'll travel for large projects. We can spray. I think we went to Ohio last year and we did 13,500 feet. We did it in a day and a half. My guys can rock and roll. They're fantastic. So when you got good guys, they can get jobs done quickly. So I can be profitable going out of town to do a job like that.
13,500 feet of what?
4 rail.
Okay.
4 plank. Yep. 2 trucks, ran 2 trucks, 4 guys sprayed it in a day and a half. We left 5 a.m. Monday morning, drove 800 miles, got there, and Wednesday night we were coming back home, got home around 1 a.m. So they made good money on that trip. Everybody was happy and they loved it. So we've got one coming up in somewhere on the East Coast, about 77,000 square feet of a big privacy fence. So we got them coming, but you know, it took time to get there. Don't expect it to come overnight, and don't get discouraged if it doesn't come overnight, because I've been doing this for a while. And of course I grew up in the fencing business, so I had maybe a leg up on most people, because a lot of guys either knew me in the fence business, kind of, but I think probably more importantly, I knew who the players were in the game of the fence business. And so I was able to go after them, the guys that I wanted to go after, and just say, hey, you build fences, I stain fences, we should be friends, and just get the conversation started. And it's pretty simple, you know. Same thing, house washers, you know. Hey, you build houses, they're dirty when you finish, I clean houses, we should be friends. Simple. I think that's probably the most valuable thing that there is. I mean, the internet's great, but that's really how I built my business, was just knocking on doors, cold calls. Nobody wants to do cold calls, but I think if I could only do one thing, that's probably what I would do. I mean, it would be a big decision if it was cold calls only or internet.
Really? You feel like
Yeah,
it
it
was,
would be.
wow.
For sure. For sure. Cold calls are free, right? And the internet, people have to come to you. Cold calls, you're going out and getting it. So, I'm not afraid of cold calls. A lot of guys are, but I got to, I've studied sales because I rode in the truck for so many years just driving, and I listened to Zig Ziglar. I listened to all the greats on sales training and just soaked it in. And so my personality, I'm not afraid to go talk to people. I know some people are not that way, but for me, cold calls has always been profitable, and all of our salespeople, we make them call people.
So while we're on that subject, I guess, just because of what is going on right now, I don't want to act like that's not going on with the coronavirus. And if you've been on Facebook at all recently, there's a lot of conversation about people and their businesses, and they're kind of worried about that. And not to dive too much into specifically how you're overcoming it, but is cold calls one of those things that you think, I mean, especially in a time where we have to practice social distancing even more so now, it could be something valuable to help continue to drive revenue for people?
Well, sure, it could be. Cold calls are great, and as we have a distribution company now, and we sell stains all over the country and all over the world right now. So it's kind of interesting that a lot of people are doing what we've been doing for years, for a long time now. We might run 2 estimates a month for our contracting business. Everything nowadays, we use the Shinfu process. So if any of you guys have been part of the Contractor Sales Academy, basically the idea is we're going to qualify our leads before we go out there, and we're not going to go out there and waste their time or our time if they're thinking 500 and we're thinking 5,000. So we're trying to our process is very streamlined now, but when we started, I'll give you a rundown of what it looks like today, and you can modify this however you want. When we get a phone call or an internet lead that comes through, we say, yeah, we'd love to help you. Please send me some pictures of the project so I can see what you see. Maybe an inspirational photo if you've got it of what you want it to look like, and send me over your address so we can look at it on Google Earth, and let me know when's a good time to call. And we can look at those things and we can quote the job. If you give me 3 or 4 pictures of a deck on the back of a house, and I can see it's 2 feet off the ground, it's 14 by 25, it's got 78 feet of railing, it's got 6 steps, I give you a price. I know what it's going to cost. I don't have to drive across town or send a sales guy and tie him up all day and my homeowner up all day to quote that. Now, there's some projects you get that you've got to see. And I'm sure power washing, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen pictures and you get there and it's 50 times worse. That does happen. But if I figure it's going to cost me $65 to $75 to send a guy across Nashville, because we're about 45 miles east of Nashville. If I send a truck to Nashville and back, and 10 times, used to, we'd run 10 to 12 estimates a day. So every truck that I keep off the road, we've got room in our budget built in now for maybe that fence was a little longer than we expected, or maybe that cleaning job was a little tougher than it should have been. But at the end of the year, we're still running at a higher profit by pre-qualifying, quoting over the phone, quoting over the email, than we were running estimates all day, every day. And if you're an owner operator, it gives you more time to work on your business, spend more time on the job. For those guys who sit in the truck and watch their guys work while they're on the phone, gives you more time for that as well, instead of just running in circles estimate. Because what happens when you're running all those estimates, you're running estimates. You're not worried about follow-up. You're not worried about checking on the things that you need to do. When you have that time back, you can follow up and say, hey, we got to follow up with these people. We can follow our follow-up sequence. And it just gives you more time to be more profitable. And you're going to piss some people off because they're going to go, can't you just come out here? And we say, we'd love to come out, but first, we really don't want to waste your time. We want to make sure it's a good fit. And we can do that through Facebook Messenger. We can do it through email. We can do it over the phone, cell phones. We live in a digital world. So it's easy for us to do those things. And it's even more easier now with this virus, this silly thing that's going on. So I think right now would be a good time for people to start doing that. And if they've got any questions, they can message me or whatever, and I'll be glad to help you share our rates. Our rates are higher than probably what most owner operators should be because we run a little higher overhead. We have a big commercial building. We got employees, bunch of trucks, but we can get you close, and we can tell you what your cost is going to be real quick, and you can make your decision on where you want to price it.
Awesome. You have a question?
Yeah. So there's a question about, do you think that meeting people in person and having them put a face to the business helps? And is there any way that you overcome that with your process since you're not going out there?
Well, we have a online presence, obviously. We have reviews everywhere. We have a 5-star rating. We have a lot of word of mouth. We have trucks that are wrapped, and if you don't have a wrapped truck, you need to get one, because when you get your first wrapped truck, you're going to start getting calls that says, I see your trucks everywhere. And you're going to be going, I've only got one truck. But they see your trucks everywhere. So it automatically gives people the feel that, hey, this is a fleet. And now that we got more and more trucks, people see us everywhere. And so when you have a brand, it doesn't matter as much, I think. Some people still want to meet face to face and shake the hand, and I understand that. But back in the fence business, back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I'm in the fence business, and we were doing deals over email, and I thought, this is crazy. I never even met these people. We built their fence, we quoted it, we built it, and they mailed us a check. We never even met, and we did them a job. So people are used to that. It's been going on for a long time. So I'll leave that to you. All you guys listening, if you want to go out and see people, go. But our process is different. We just, we have different things going on, but don't feel like that this is something that I'm doing or made up, because this is popular. This is big. It's the coming trend in contractors, because it's not fair for contractors to run circles all day long and then go home, wave to their kids, or look in the bedroom and see, oh, there's my kids, they're sleeping. And then you get on the computer and do estimates or emails all night. That's stupid. And we've done that for so long as contractors in any trade, but contractors have done that for so long that it's normal. We need to rein that in and get more of a, I don't want to say 9 to 5, because obviously I'm working now, you're working. A lot of guys that are listening, believe it or not, you're working, you're doing market research, you're doing business development right now, but you need that time, and you deserve the time. So don't be afraid to say, hey, Mr. Jones, I'd love to come see that house, but so here's a great way to break the ice with people. If they send you a couple of pictures, let's say a log house, because this is the one that gets everybody, log homes. You can call a painter to do a log house. You can call a true wood specialist to come to a log house. The painter might be $3,700. The log home specialist might be $37,000. And you need to really, you really need to get that up front, what this customer wants. You need to know their expectation, and you need to give them a price before. Who wants to drive across town 2 hours, fight traffic, talk to a customer, and make friends for 30 minutes or an hour? You can't just come and go. You got to visit for a few minutes, and then you drive back home 2 hours, and then they say, well, we're going to think about it. Those things are going to happen. But if you can cut through all of the BS and say, hey, Mr. Prospect, your job, from what I'm looking at here, similar projects we have done have been between $7,200 and $6,500. And you got to wait. Just be quiet. When you say that, let them think. And you'll notice something that I did there. What was strange about that, David, when I set that price?
I'm not really sure. It seems like.
Well, I'm going to say it again. It's going to cost I can't remember the numbers I said, but I'm going to just make up some different ones. I said between $7,200 and $6,500.
Oh, so you started with the higher number first?
Yeah. Because what happens if you tell them it's going to be between $6,500 and $7,200? What does everybody hear? They heard $6,500. And now you got to fight your way back up that mountain. If there's a swimming pool, you got a mask, or there's a hardy board house beside you and a parking garage across the street. So you start with a higher number, and you're setting that anchor. ooh, 7,200. So if you come in at 69.95, they go, well, that's better than 7,200. Let's do this. So it's just, it's just sales training. It's just little things like that. We're not trying to manipulate people, but we're trying to make a little more even playing field for everybody. And that way you don't get a false impression. That way your customer doesn't think, well, 6,500, because they're going to grab a hold of that and hold on to it, and turns you sort of into the bad guy when you say, oh, I didn't see this. We're going to have to make a change. And another step you can add on is, let's say, David, you said, hey, I want to do it. That sounds great. 7,200, 6,500, whatever, in that range, I'm good with it. And you just say, all right, well, listen, I want you to be honest with me when I come out there, because I'm going to come out and we're going to sign a contract on this thing. If you're okay with that price point. Yeah, I'm okay with it. All right. So yeah, I lost my train of thought. Don't you hate it when that happens? You winked at me and it messed me up.
Sorry,
But-
you intrigued me once the 7265 and I didn't
Yeah.
catch it. So you come out there and you tell him you're going to offer him a contract. So he's got to be serious about this.
Yeah, he's got to be serious about it. But this is the Shinfu process. And, I guess I've got stage fright or camera fright a little bit, but you guys can look this up. It's very interesting and it works. But the idea is pre-qualification. And the idea is when you go out there, you're going to close the deal. And a lot of guys are going to their mind's going to explode in a minute here, because before you go out, if you got a customer, like I said, who is, you said, I'm going to come out there, if you're okay with it, but you have to set the precedent, or you have to let them know up front, hey, if I come out, then I'm coming to sell you. I'm coming to sign a contract, and I'm coming to get a deposit. Do we understand each other? And there's word tracks that you can use to make that very clear and very, very not sound, we don't want to sound rough. Yeah, we want to sound customer friendly, but their time's important too, because these people are taking time off work. They got to pick up their kids. They got 3 soccer games to go to. So we want to keep them in mind too. But if you got a customer that says, yeah, let's do it, then great, go sign them up, go get the job. Usually we don't even do that. Hey, your deck, we saw pictures, send us the contract, signed contract, half deposit, and your color choice, and we're good to go. But if you got to go out there and you got somebody that's kind of squirrely and you don't trust them, you can always hit them with the consultation fee. You can say, well, I really want to come out there, but I want you to know if this is what it's going to be, this is the price. And if you're okay with that, then we'll do it. But if you tell me, something's not right, or it's not going to work, you just back out or say, I'm going to think about it, then we've got a consultation fee. It's a $500 consultation fee. And if you want more information on that, I would say, let's talk about that in another podcast, because that's making people's mind explode. But that's a sales process, and it's just a way to obviously make life easier on you and easier on the customer. Because what most of us do is we go out there and what do? We throw up on them with all this information, and they don't need it. The customers want to know that you know your trade and your craft, but they don't care what species of wood is up there on the roof. They don't give a crap. They want to know you know what you're doing. So I would tell most guys to let the customer talk and be confident, but don't worry them to death. Because when I call people to my house to do projects, I don't care. I want you to fix my sink. I don't care what's wrong with it. Fix it. You're the professional. Fix it. You're the power washer. Do it, man. You're using an eco-friendly chemical. Awesome. Do it. Don't kill my bushes. People really don't care about all this stuff, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah. So I think there's something to be said about building some value in the services. I talk a lot about eliminators and things that we add into our sales pitches that are different from everyone else. But also I think that there is, when we talk to our sales reps, we have sales reps that go out and do these estimates that are booked online through our website. And so our main thing to them is don't sell the service, sell yourself and the company, inform on the service. So if they have questions or they seem uneasy about a process that may happen, especially with pressure washing, the first thing everyone wants to know is, are you going to blow the paint off my house? So you inform them that we know what we're doing. We're not going to blow the paint off of your house. And then we start talking about me and building that rapport and building it what the company is about. Because I think there's something to be said about a customer or a client, or specifically how I'm building my business, something to be said about feeling obligated to give me your business. And so in residential, that's something that we definitely target is making them feel obligated, where price really isn't a conversation anymore. It's more so about, making sure that they put their dollars in the right hands. So residentially, that's something.
Can we role play for a second?
Sure.
All right, David, I'd love to have you pressure wash my house, but man, the last guy at my last house, he blew all the paint off of my house, man. You guys going to blow all the paint off of my house?
No, absolutely not, Caleb. And I appreciate you asking the question. That's a great question. And basically, our process is just soft washing. So you won't use any high pressure. Everything's going to be chemically treated, and we'll certainly take care of the condition of your house. What other questions do you have for me? That's great.
I'll call it quits right there.
Okay.
That's good. That's good. You didn't fall for my trap. Most guys, when a customer says something like that, or the last painter, he tracked footprints of paint all over my house, or he spilled something, or the last power washer killed my bushes or ripped my paint off. Most guys fall for it and they start just vomiting. Oh, well, we never do that. We're the greatest paint company. We're the greatest power wash company. And most people, they vomit on them. But you know what? An easy way to fix that is to say, hey, what if we just wrote in the contract, if we blow the paint off your house, you don't owe us anything and we'll fix the paint. We'll repaint the house. That's an easy way. And blowing the paint off the house might be a big deal. $300 house wash, $500 house wash versus painting a house for 10 grand. So you got to be careful. But a lot of things like that, if you can beat objections by that. If you know your process so well and there's absolutely no way you're going to mess up their house or their bushes, you can just simply, well, what if we just wrote it in the contract that we won't do that? And if we do, you don't owe us anything. That will put most people at ease and you'll get the job, usually just like that.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with that statement. I think, like you said, I think you need to be smart where you use it. But at the same time, if you can overcome the objection and you already know you're not going to do that, then why does it even matter? You're
soft wash things. Easy. Yeah, that's an easy.
If they're like, don't burn my yard up, I'm not going to burn your yard up. We'll put it in writing.
What I'm trying to get at though is the homeowner, and we've all dealt with these people that's mad. We're mad at contractors because contractors tear stuff up. They use subcontractors that don't give a crap about anything. They just spray bleach on stuff and kills all my plants. They leave stripes in the sidewalks. They're mad, right? Because how many times do you go out and eat or whatever with some friends or whatever, and they go, man, you won't believe this contractor I had. He did such a great job. Everything was so great. His process was wonderful. It was all automated. They did his employees, they had pompadour hairdos. It looked great. They had muscles. You don't hear about that. You hear, man, we hired a drywall guy and he screwed everything up. He wouldn't show up. His guys were smoking dope in the back alley. Their truck was messed up. He messed everything up. He took my money. He never showed up. We've all heard those things. So the idea is to not defend yourself. It's to, the last painter spilled paint all over my kitchen floor and it was a disaster. I hate painters, but I'm calling you because I got to get my house painted. Well, Miss Smith, what if we just wrote in the contract that if we spilt paint on anything, if it's not cleaner than when we found it, you just don't owe us a dime and we'll fix any damages. That's where that point right there is best used. That makes sense.
Yeah.
A little better example.
Well,
takes the anger, the fight out of them a little bit.
It does. Yeah. I think sometimes they're looking for you to almost want to overcome that objection instead of subside.
Yeah, we don't want to fight with them.
No, not at all. I totally agree. I think, and a lot of people, like I said, I think sometimes we get into that point where we're trying to explain away or defend the actions of something, or and you're losing the sell at that point. So
yeah. What we want to do is instead of being against the customer, we want to be on the same side and put our arm around. And now me and the customer are looking at that other contractor and going, he's a knucklehead, And you don't even have to, if you're confident, you don't have to defend yourself. They called you. You have beautiful trucks. You have a beautiful website. You got a 5-star review. They already know if you can separate yourself from that other guy. You want to be on the same side as the customer. But there's a couple more questions here. Do you want me to answer those?
Yeah, we can answer the last couple. I didn't want to keep you on too long, but yeah, go ahead.
I'm looking at Matt White. He's talking about, do I have fan decks or sample boards for stain customers? Yes. Do I like them? Do I like using them? No. And I'll tell you why. Let's see here. Here's one that we got here. They look like this. They got stamped. This one's in pieces. But That's what your fence is going to look like, Mr. Customer. And they're looking through these colors. What do I want? I want this color. I want that color. The problem in painters, the world's worst. You know, you've been to the house where there's like 17 colors, squares this big on the wall that are painted. Let me show you what I use, what works better. If I can show a customer 4 or 5 photos or 10 photos or even 1 or 2 photos of a fence or a deck that's been stained, maybe I show it in the sun and I show a picture in the shade. They get the idea of what it's going to look like. We got a bunch of these printed to go on the wall of our office, but I'm sending people pictures. Is that a better representation of what you're going to get?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's our cedar tone stain, you know, but that's what we do. We found, before we manufacture stain and after we manufacture stain, if we show up to a job site with these, ours are big. Our samples are really big. Here's some drag down tests. Here's some samples, just color samples of pigment. And we found that if we go out there and you leave this with the customer, you give it to them, you stain their fence, they're going to grab that thing and they're going to go, that's not the color. That's not the color. That's not what I wanted. And you go, well, Miss Smith, it is. You know, this is a cedar sample. Your fence is treated pine or it's white spruce. So it's going to look a little different. Remember, I told you that. And it even says it in our contract that, you know, the colors may vary. And but when I started sending photos out, it made all the difference in the world. I mean, we're doing 400 or 500 jobs a year. One a year, maybe one customer a year will say that's not what I wanted. And usually that's not exactly the color I thought it would be, but it looks beautiful. Where before customers were, you know, well, they've got this little bitty piece of wood and they're holding it up to their brick. It just didn't work well for us. So we found that pictures work better. Now we get some pushback every once in a while, and you know, I'll send them to go look at one. You want to see what it looks like? Here's 3 addresses that are close to you. Go look at this. And sometimes that'll help, but I prefer that. I much prefer that. And if anybody needs pictures of our stains or any similar stains, we have color matches to other stuff too. Call me or message me. I got 5,000 just on this phone that I can send you. Let's see here. Still do over 80% on the phone. That's good. This is great. We need to share this thing, man. This is a great. Clay Evan is there. Hey, Clay. Let's face to face.
Yeah. So while you're reading that, I actually want to piggyback on that because for you
Please
guys
do.
who are doing pressure washing and you know, watching on, that's a good system or process to have in place no matter what service you're asking for us. And I think we just released a YouTube video where I was showing you examples in this on Trade School Consulting, the YouTube channel. I was showing you in the video. We actually send a packet out to the client before we arrive that for pressure washing that's going to show a list of our before and afters for our services and stuff, so that they have an accurate description and representation of what work we can do. And as well, it opens us up a lot to, oh, I didn't know that you offer this, or, oh, I wasn't thinking about this being cleaned, or whatever the case may be. And so that can add some additional revenue just by having an email simply set up and ready to send out. And it's auto-generated. Again, this doesn't take up a lot of time. It's a click of a button and then it's out there with them. We have references that go in this packet, the PDF file as well as all of our insurances and things like that. So it just kind of, it gets all those objections out of the way before we get there, so that I don't have to go through the, are we insured? Are we qualified? You know, what does this look like if we clean it? So
we've been doing that for years. We call it a bid package. You got to have one of those.
exactly. Can I get a stack of those big sample photos you're hanging on your wall? Tim wants to know if he can get a we get finished photos. Matt, would you consider deck and fence washing and staining actual wood restoration as far as an add-on service and marketing advertising for us pressure washers? You can answer that if you want. I can answer it for him.
I don't fully understand the question.
So he's saying, would you consider the fence and deck staining and stuff an add-on service for people that have pressure washing companies? And yeah, I mean, I guess it's a service that you can add on to your business. I wouldn't consider it an add-on service because, like I said, it's been very profitable for us, and it seems like not that I didn't know this before I met Caleb, but it seems like I have a lot to learn in that area and it can continue to be more profitable. So I don't look at it as an add-on as much as I do like its own division within my company.
It's a value add. I mean, if you have the clientele, I mean, really, if you think about it, if you pressure wash somebody's house and you sell shoes, you could still sell that person's shoes. So yeah, if they've got if you showed up to do a roof wash and, you know, they got a fence and a driveway that needs cleaned and sealed, the opportunity's there. I don't like doing driveways. It's a very competitive market here in Nashville. Do we do one every once in a while? Sure we do. We're more expensive. We're probably double the price of everybody else on driveways. So you just got to find your niches that you're good at where you can make your money, but there's opportunity. If you're in a good neighborhood, you know, you can walk up and you can do the roof, you can do the siding, you can stain the shutters, you can clean the deck, you can clean the driveway, you can come back 2 weeks and stain all of it. So there's, you know, it just depends. It depends on your business model. I lean more towards new fences and decks, rocking and rolling as many as we can do. The good size ones, 250 feet, you know, residential is probably our average size fence. Our average project is probably $1,200 to $1,500. And that's where we're looking at for fences. On decks, same thing. Your average deck is probably $1,200. And then you get these outliers that are $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 decks. And you got to build those in too. But, you know, the money's there, the market's there, and you've already got the clientele if you're in the power washing business. So I guarantee you everybody listening here has cleaned a fence or a deck before. So it's already there.
To Matt was saying, would you advertise it as wood restoration? I want to say this too, to your point. I think you can, we advertise deck staining. So it's not like I advertise pressure washing decks and fences and then I go in and try to upsell them or add on the staining aspect of it. I'll advertise, if you go through Google, we have Google ads that run specifically for deck and fence staining. Because once I get in there, I can say, hey, you know, because I've had this happen a lot where we'll show up and they're like, yeah, we already had a pressure washer come out. I'm like, oh, we do it all in one visit. And they're like, oh, well, that's so convenient for us. So now I've just picked up pressure washing from advertising as a staining company. So I think you can go both ways. And it's definitely a profitable thing. And that's why I don't look at it so much as an add-on. It seems to generate business for my other services.
Sure.
Matt was asking, should you classify it as wood restoration? Is there a definition there where there's a line where it becomes restoration?
Well, you know, there's not a really set definition. So a lot of guys spray bleach on something and they call it wood restoration. And that's not that's just not so. So with our system, what we do in our bidding software, our lowest package for a fence is bleach. It's called a basic wash. I think it's $3 a foot. I think it's $3 a foot that we do a basic wash. A basic wash is bleach, probably 3 to 6%, depending on the project. And we follow it up with a rinse with soft wash tips. That's a basic wash. The next thing up, if somebody's got some really nice cedar and they want it looking good, and it's fairly new, we'll clean it and brighten it. And we would use depending on the project, we might use percarbonate, we might use sodium metasilicate. If it's really just covered in organic growth, then we might boost it with some sodium hydroxide. But what we call wood restoration, when a project goes from a wash to a restoration for us, is when we strip off the dead cell wood. So when you bleach a fence or a deck and you see all that white mushy stuff on the surface and you go, well, I'm just going to leave that alone. And then you come back and the deck looks fuzzy. The deck looks white. It doesn't look as good as it did when it was new. Restoration is removing that. So our restoration, like our standard process for a deck is going to be, if we're restoring it, we would come out. First thing we would do is, if it's to the point where we need restoration, we're probably not going to sand the lumber stamps off. But if it's a newer deck, we're going to sand the lumber stamps, where it says number 2 pressure treated pine, the green or black stamps. We get those off first, and then we're going to apply our cleaner. And if it's a restoration, we're going to strip all that off and we're going to make smooth passes. You guys are power washers. Y'all can probably do it better than we do, but smooth, don't leave any marks. And then we're going to brighten it and then we're going to rinse it again. And that's it. We call it a 5-step process on decks and fences. Same way. We're not going to sand a deck or anything like that, or excuse me, a fence. We're going to We're going to spray the cleaner on, strip the dead cell wood off. It'll look like wood pulp going on the ground. Then you brighten it, and that will strip away all that dead wood that's detached from the surface. And it'll make the wood literally look brand new. 10, 20-year-old fence, you can make it look brand new. That's what we call restoration. If you're just spraying a chemical and rinsing it off, not really. I mean, somebody's going to pay you if you call that restoration, but I don't think you're doing a just service there.
All right. So I think that's it for the questions. I do want to say, because we've already run kind of 15 minutes past time, I do appreciate your time, Caleb, and coming out and talking to us. And really, I mean, you've given us a lot of information. So before we go, do you want to briefly, and I think we've posted some of this as you kind of named some stuff going through here as far as links and websites, but do you briefly want to run through some of the classes you'll be having this year and some of the other areas they can find you at?
Yeah, man, I'd love to. You know, we had an event in Dallas, supposed to be Friday, the 20th this week. Unfortunately, the group we were doing that with has canceled that one. So if you were coming to the Dallas event, it's been canceled due to this virus deal that's going around. July 17th in Nashville, we're going to have Staining University. We got it at a big veteran center. We're going to stain some decks for some veterans, some World War II guys. Going to do a lot of hands-on training. We're going to do all the stain man poles that you've seen Mark Gage that he makes. We're going to do demonstrations on those. Ron Musgraves is coming to that event as well. He's going to do talks on commercial sales and all the stuff he's famous for. Probably going to have some fence industry guys there too. It's growing, it's getting bigger, so we don't know what to expect. But yeah, we do all this for free. I tried so hard, you know, being a business-minded guy to find a way to make it profitable. And at the end of the day, when I made all this stuff free, it was like a 1,000-pound gorilla getting off of my chest. It just gave me relief. And now I can do whatever we want. We can do it because it's all for free. And our staining group, Facebook group, Staining University, has kind of become its own entity now. It's its own thing. And right there, you know, if you can't make it to one of the classes, get on that group and learn. It's a clean group. I don't know how your groups work, but nobody's talking smack. Nobody's running their mouth. Everybody's helpful. Everybody is a family there. And it's crazy because there's some guys listening tonight and that are watching, and we're like brothers. I mean, it has gotten a lot of people really close. When you meet them in person, shake their hand, you feel like you've known them all your life. So you've probably experienced similar things in your groups, but it's just a good thing. And help people.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So for sure, I think that well, for our group in particular, I think it stays pretty professional, and we get a lot of like you guys like you coming on here and being able to talk to us and spread some wisdom. And you know, a lot of people I've gotten a lot of emails this past week and week before that on, you know, what can we do during this time? What services can I add on during this time period to help drive revenue? And I think this week was, we had planned this a couple of weeks ago, but I think it's a really good week for you to be on here and talk about a service that pairs so well with what we're already doing. So I do appreciate the time and you coming on.
Yeah. We're selling jobs this week. Our contracting's moving. We're putting a lot of stain out the door. I might have seen a small decrease, you know, maybe I think we had a new dealer that said, we're going to do it, but hang on, you know, we want to see how things go. So, you know, we can't ignore the big elephant in the room. You know, this virus thing, we don't know what it's going to do, but I would say make money while you can. Keep moving. If people are spending money, that's what's going to keep this economy rolling. If we shut ourselves up in a cave, obviously that's the thing that will hurt us. So as long as I do business with you, you do business with the bread man does business with the apple guy, and the apple guy goes and buys the sheep man buys butter, you know, we'll keep this economy rolling and everything will stay straight. So, and before we go, I want to thank everybody. You know, I really appreciate everything. This has been one heck of a fun ride. I can't wait for the future. But if you're listening, David, all your guys listening, I've got a promo code for them, and it's really original. So I want you to write this down. If you go to our website, stainandsealexperts.com, store or restorative wood products, use the promo code contractor. You'll get a great discount. I think it save you $40 a bucket, something like that. And
you can't make it simpler than that.
Contractor, baby. Put it in at the checkout, and that'll get you a great price. And if David, I'm a little disappointed you're not using our stains. I'm gonna have to send you some information.
So this is my second season going into staining. Well, I guess kind of it's my second year going into staining. So we're going to change some things around. I've actually talked to Mark about his gun and some of the tools that he's designed. I hopefully will have him on sooner rather than later to talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, if everything goes as planned this summer and stuff, I would be very surprised that I'm not going to be in Nashville at your training.
Yeah, come on. Send a couple of your guys down. Yeah, and we got Mark's poles in stock here, so people love them. Steven's on here, and I think a couple other guys have got them. They like them.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to touch base with you after this and try to figure out what we can do going into ours, because we actually have, it's crazy. I talk about it's keeping guys busy. We actually have 3 staining jobs next week alone, which I know doesn't sound a lot to some guys that stain regular, but for a pressure washing company, that's an extra $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 that we're having out of those 3 jobs next week that I usually wouldn't have if we were just doing pressure washing. So definitely going to keep in touch with you. I'm interested in the products for sure, and getting more knowledgeable about this. So that is something that I can definitely admit I wish I had a little bit more knowledge.
Well, and our company name, Stain and Seal Experts, a lot of guys say, well, you're a self-proclaimed expert. And I think I'm pretty close to probably having some expert knowledge about something somewhere. But the idea of Stain and Seal Experts is not about me. It's about a group of guys. We've got them all together. Everyone on my team, they're an expert at what they do. They stain fences better than I ever did. They clean up messes better than I ever did. But I was good because I made a lot of messes. But like Steven Estep on here, he's watching in Memphis, Easy Stain. One of the finest stainers probably in the country. His workmanship is through the roof. Tim Cox is doing stuff. There's a lot of guys that are experts out there. And that's the idea of getting them all together, because just like with power washers, man, some guys will do the same old thing for 20 or 30 years. And then they go and they see something new and they go, wow, that's going to change everything. Right. I remember back in like 07, 08, 09, I was in the fence business. I had a printer and a tablet in my truck, and I printed estimates, PDF document estimates, printed them out in the truck, sign on the screen, and I'll print it. And it just blew people's mind. Well, now if you show up with the paper copy and you write on it, people go, well, that's kind of weird. Why don't you just email it to me? So times change, but everybody here, I think, is an expert at something. So if you got any questions on any of the other products, water-based, oil-based, any brand, we're not going to be mad at you for other brands. We got guys on there that are using everything. It's not just about our products. It's about helping the whole industry. So anybody, anywhere, if you're interested in staining, been doing it a long time or just thinking about it, get on there and check it out.
Awesome. And real quick before we go, so some shameless plugging on my part. We just released a couple of videos for the Trade School Consulting YouTube channel. So if you guys you got time, go through, watch that video from beginning to end. There's a lot of good gold nuggets on there. Both of the videos this week were about systems and processes you can implement with follow-up, how to close more estimates and things of that nature with just simple systems and forms. So watch those. Yeah. You guys continue to, if you have any questions, continue to post those comments. We'll try to get back to you if you're watching the video and it's not actually live. With that being said, thank you again, Caleb. We appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. We appreciate y'all supporting the group, and we will see you guys later on this week.
Good deal, man. Good deal. I appreciate it, David. Glad I was here, and we'll see you guys at the next one. Adios.